fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing the latest Pixar film, but the first Pixar film to reach theaters since before the pandemic, Lightyear. For many people that know me, I am actually a really big fan of the Toy Story franchise. I love all four of them in their own special ways, and to me, in terms of the Pixar, rankings, masterclass, whatever you want to call, how you rank your Pixar films. To me, the Toy Story franchise is the staple. It's right there at the top, and everything else is kind of up behind it. I mean, each one has got its different levels, but obviously, for anyone who's seen the Toy Story franchise, the main characters are obviously Woody and Buzz. And so when we heard that they're making a Lightyear movie, a lot of people were wondering what this movie is really about. What is the point of this film, and what could it bring that we didn't already know from the Toy Story franchise? And for a lot of people, I mean, they got real upset because they didn't recast Tim Allen, and they casted Chris Evans as the voice of Buzz, and all this kind of stuff. Now, the movie literally starts off with an explanation of what this film is, and basically what the movie is that this is the movie that Andy, the main, the owner of Woody and Buzz the toys in the Toy Story franchise, this is the movie that he saw that made him fall in love with Buzz Lightyear. So we're basically watching a movie within the world of Toy Story that made Andy a fan of the Buzz Lightyear character. And that's basically what we're watching here. So it's like a movie within a movie of a verse, or of a Toy Story universe. Once you can get past that, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not that hard. It really isn't. A lot of people are making it way bigger than it has to be. And in terms of Chris Evans being the voice instead of Tim Allen, I want to kind of throw this out to everyone out there who's ever had an action figure or a doll that is based off of a film or a TV show. How many of those actual dolls sound 100% like the actor that was in the films or the TV shows? The answer is 0%. So that's where the voice discrepancy comes between Chris Evans and Tim Allen. And if you can get on board with that, I think you guys can pretty much go into Lightyear relatively unscathed. If you are so hard dead set on that being a bullshit explanation, then I really can't help you there. And you probably shouldn't check out Lightyear, because you're probably just going to try to hate on it for no reason. Nonetheless, Lightyear, basically, like I said, is the story of Buzz Lightyear. The main general plot of Lightyear itself is, while spending years attempting to return home, marooned Space Ranger Buzz Lightyear encounters an army of ruthless robots commanded by Zurg, who are attempting to steal his fuel source. In terms of the story itself, why did Pixar try to make this film? Why are we watching this movie instead of watching maybe something new and original from like something like Turning Red, Soul, that we had over the last couple of years? And frankly, I mean, it's probably a cash grab. It's probably trying to keep people in the mindset of the Toy Story world, Toy Story universe, without actually trying to make another Toy Story film, because the fourth one pretty much kind of put a bookend on that franchise. And, the real question is there's probably a lot here that they could go storyline-wise with the Buzz Lightyear character instead of the actual Buzz Lightyear toy. And, like I said, Chris Evans doing the voice of Buzz, I think he actually does a really, really solid job. I think there's a lot of parts in the movie, especially at the very, very beginning, where he's going to say things and quote things and certain mannerisms that are going to be very, very familiar for people who are fans of Toy Story. It's one of those things where at first I was kind of eye-rolling and annoyed by it, but then I got to remember, this is the movie that Andy saw. And this is the movie that makes Andy fall in love with this toy. So it would make sense that these callbacks that we're seeing from Toy Story aren't necessarily there to basically kind of be Easter eggs for us to go, oh, Buzz did that in Toy Story. It's more or less, this is the stuff that Andy fell in love with. So naturally the toy would do these things because the toys are based off of this movie. And so Chris Evans, throughout this film, I think does a awesome job of portraying Buzz. And there are certain times in the film where he is talking and doing the mannerisms and doing the things that Buzz does, and I kind of was saying that does kind of sound a lot like Tim Allen's character, or that sounds a lot like Tim Allen, to the point where their voices are relatively similar in a way. And in terms of Chris Evans doing his best to give kind of a nod to Tim Allen, I think he does an admirable job of it. The story itself, I mean, it's a very much like a Pixar sequel in a way, where does it have a lot of the nuances and great things that a Pixar film has had in the past? It's got most of it in there, and it tries to do its own thing. But does it hit the upper echelon of Pixar greats? No, it does not. I mean, it's got its heartstring moments. There's about a 10-minute moment in the film, which for some reason always feels like it's always 10 minutes long, like with Up. There's a 10-minute moment here, probably near the end of the first act, that will pull on your heartstrings, maybe make you cry, tear up a little bit. It made me feel a little emotional, but one thing that this has that a lot of Pixar films don't have, unless you're talking about, The Incredibles, is it definitely has some very high caliber action sequences. This is probably the most summer blockbuster-y type of Pixar film that we've ever got to see, because Lightyear looks fantastic. The space shots look great. The trippy nuances of hyperspeed and all this kind of stuff looks great. The hair on all the characters look fantastic. There's so many parts where the wind's blowing that the hair immediately caught my eye, just going, that actually looks relatively good in terms of this being a animation film. Like I said, the other characters, this is probably the one part of the movie that kind of takes me out of this mindset that this is the film that Andy watched when he was a boy. Because yes, Buzz Lightyear the character is a fun, awesome character, and yes, it would make sense that he would totally want a toy for Buzz Lightyear. But the problem is that these other characters, you got Alicia Hawthorne, played by Uzu Aduba, who was his partner in the first part of the film, which anyone who's seen the trailer knows he jumps ahead into the future, and then he starts to team up with Alicia's granddaughter, Izzy, played by Keke Palmer. You also got Mo, played by Taika Waititi, who's basically just playing Taika Waititi. And then you got Darby Steele, played by Dale Soules. And this is not necessarily where the problem lies with Lightyear, but this is where it's like it kind of pulls you out of the mindset of Andy's watching this and falls in love with the toys of Buzz Lightyear, is that throughout the entire Toy Story franchise, if there was one character that Andy or any kid probably would want, yes, Buzz Lightyear is right up around that list, but it would probably be Socks the cat, played by Peter Sohn. Socks is the highlight of this film. He's funny, he's adorable, because it's a cat, and he steals every scene he's in, and it's a moment where you're watching the film and you're like, Socks the cat is going to be a huge marketing ploy for these Lightyear toys when they come out, probably now, since the film is out. And that kind of pulled me back going, well, why didn't Andy have a Socks cat? Why didn't Andy have an Izzy or a Mo or a Darby or an Alicia? In the Toy Story franchise, and I think Toy Story 2, when they go to Big Al's Toy Farm, the whole aisle is filled with Buzz Lightyear dolls, but not filled with the rest of the characters in the film, mainly Socks. And it makes me kind of wonder, like, yes, I understand this is the film that Andy fell in love with, but I feel it's kind of not thought out in a way, because we didn't see any of these other toys throughout the Toy Story film. And yes, that's very foreshadowing of Pixar to think that way in 1995 and these other films. But it's one of those things where it's like, we're supposed to believe this mindset that this is the film that Andy was supposed to have seen. But all these other characters, which mind you are fun characters throughout this film, especially Socks, that we would never have seen those characters, or he never would have gotten those toys throughout the 3 films. And you got to kind of, I guess, put that in your mindset, or put that in the back of your mind, because that's probably one big glaring thing about this with the thought process or the idea they're going with this film, is that these other toys don't exist. But like I said, nonetheless, the film, like I said, Chris Evans is great. Keke Palmer and Uzo Aduba are both awesome as the Hawthorns. They both bring this unique, fun energy, and voice cast wise, they perform perfectly with Chris Evans, with their banter, their back and forth, the chemistry between them and Buzz throughout this film, even though it is just voice acting, is great, and you buy in to these characters and their relationship with Buzz throughout the film. Like I said, Peter Sohn as Socks is hilarious, funny, has heart as well, and definitely, like I said, is the scene stealer throughout the film. Taika Waititi as Mo, it's Taika Waititi. If you like Taika, and you like Taika's sense of humor, then you're going to like Taika in this film. But does Taika bring anything new or nuance to this character Mo outside of something that we haven't seen from a Korg or anything that we've seen Taika do in the past? No. He's basically just playing Taika. And you know what? That shtick is going to work most of the time. Ryan Reynolds, for the most part, has been playing Ryan Reynolds for most of his career, and it works. And for Taika, as long as it works for him, dude, Taika, keep doing you. I do wish we could see something a little bit new from Taika from time to time, but he's basically playing Taika Waititi in a Buzz Lightyear film. And Dale Soules as Darby Steele, not saying that she's the weak link, because she actually does have some great one-liners, but she just feels like the one character that's just kind of not... stands out in terms of like not being a part of the group in a way. She is solid in the film, and she's an enjoyable character, but she just kind of feels like the one that doesn't quite mesh with the rest of the group. The character of Zurg, I'm not going to say much more on top of that. That Zurg looks great, but I wasn't totally bought into what we figure out about Zurg at the end of the film. That's all I'm going to say on that because that's a huge spoiler. But I do wish that we kind of would have figured out a different way for the Zurg character to kind of figure stuff out in a way. Or the revelations that we get about Zurg in the film. I wish we would have had a different way. Other than that, like I said, it looks fantastic. There is some... For anyone who's ever seen Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, there's some callbacks to Interstellar in one big, big way that you guys will kind of figure out right off the top of the head if you've seen Interstellar. But I would say this, going into Pixar, or going into Lightyear, I love the character of Buzz, but I was going in with relatively low expectations, because I didn't know, A, if I wanted to see a film like this, or B, really cared much about the Pixar films anymore, because I haven't really liked the last few Pixar films. But by the end of the day, Pixar set out to do a job with Lightyear, and it succeeded. It made me like the film, it made me care about the characters. It left me enjoyed and in awe of what I was watching for that hour, 45 minutes. It is a little long. It is a little long, I will say that. There's a part in the middle where the group does a little task, and I did kind of get a little bored with that, or felt like we need to kind of keep the story going. But for the most part, Lightyear succeeds in everything that it wants to do as a Pixar film. In theaters, I mean, it's going to do its job. It's going to make money. It's probably going to be one of the bigger box office successes of the year. So in terms of recommendations for Lightyear, if you're a fan of Pixar, if you're a fan of the Toy Story franchise, or if you're a fan of any of these actors that I mentioned during the review, then yeah, you should definitely check out Lightyear. I think you guys will either find it fine, or I think you'll like it. I don't think anyone's going to actively go in and hate Lightyear as a film, because there's nothing really to hate about this movie. It's not actively bad or horrible in any way. So if you really go into it and you just straight up hate Lightyear, then there's something else that you're probably having an issue with, whether it's that they removed Tim Allen, put Chris Evans in, or which they didn't really remove him, they just casted Chris Evans for the role, or you really just can't get behind the mindset of a non-Toy Story film with Buzz Lightyear in the film, which if that's the case, that's on you. But for my score, I'm going to give Lightyear an 85%. It is definitely one, it doesn't break my top 10 in Pixar films, but it's definitely right in the upper middle of my Pixar rankings, and I quite enjoyed it a lot, and I will definitely be seeing this film again. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we'll be having a review for Spiderhead on Netflix. Also, last week we had a spoiler and non-spoiler review for Jurassic Park Dominion, as well as a franchise flashback on the Jurassic franchise as a whole. We also came out with, out right now, our this month's Actor, Actress, Director Showcase, where Brian Michaels and I talked about Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lawrence, and Steven Spielberg. And then, of course, next week we will be back again with reviews for Elvis, Black Phone, and we will also be doing a Movie Crusaders chat about where we talk about the potential fall of Pixar. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we'll also be doing our half-year review of all the movies that came out, what we liked, what we disliked, what we were surprised about, what we were disappointed about. So we got tons of videos coming out here, so feel free to check all of them out. And, yeah, until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
you're still here. It's over. Go home.